Good afternoon. My name is Jim Ryan, and I am the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I'm joined on stage by some of my HGSE colleagues, as well as a number of guests whom I will introduce as the ceremony unfolds. Together, it is our pleasure to welcome all of you to this year's Convocation ceremony, especially the 678 students who will be graduating tomorrow. My job during this ceremony is to act as MC, so I'll start by giving you a bit of an overview. We'll begin with a presentation of this year's Morningstar Award for Excellence in Teaching, followed by the presentation of our Intellectual Contribution Awards, our Marshall Awards, and the Phyllis Strimling Award. We'll then hear from our student and faculty speakers, after which we will present the 2018 class gift and this year's Alumni Award. We will then turn to our featured speaker of the day, HGSE alumnus John Sylvanus Wilson, Jr., Senior Advisor and Strategist to the President of Harvard University and former President of Morehouse College. Once John is finished, I'll have just a few brief announcements about tomorrow, and then it's off to the block party. All right. Are we all ready? Okay. Here we go. So the first award to be presented is the Morningstar Family Teaching Award, which was established in 2000 with a gift from Faith Morningstar, an HGSE alumna, and her husband, the Honorable Richard Morningstar, an alumnus of the college. Faith's experience as a student here inspired her and her family to create an award that would not only recognize great teaching, but also those faculty members who helped create a supportive environment for our students. Liz Morningstar, a member of the Morningstar family, is here today, and I ask that you join me in thanking her and her entire family for their support of teaching at HGSE. The Morningstar recipient is chosen each year based on nominations by HGSE students. The award includes a $5,000 prize and recognition on a plaque in Longfellow Hall. This year, 246 students submitted nominations for a total of 52 faculty members. This outpouring of praise is a testament to the premium that members of this community place on teaching and mentorship. And while this is never an easy decision, one faculty member's nominations did stand out among the rest. I'd like to share a few excerpts from the nominations for this year's winner. This faculty member was described by one student as a, quote, true equity warrior who, quote, breaks down the unspoken codes of power and privilege and ensures all students have equal access and opportunity. Students specifically noted this faculty member's ability to push their thinking through asking hard questions and giving honest feedback. Students also shared that this person is a transformational mentor. One student wrote that this faculty member has, quote, a beautiful way of making us see pieces of ourselves that we miss. Another student wrote, time and again, this person has come up as the professor who has made an indelible mark on people's lives. Without further ado, I am delighted to share that this year's Morningstar Award winner is Elizabeth A. City. The inscription on the certificate reads, in recognition of your excellence in teaching and advising and your caring, respectful, and enthusiastic commitment to students. Please join me again in thanking and congratulating Liz City. I hope you don't mind. I think it's important to stay hydrated, so I may take a sip of water every now and then. Okay, the Intellectual Contribution Awards. For the 13th consecutive year, HGSE is recognizing a student from each master's program with an Intellectual Contribution Award. Master's students were given the opportunity to nominate a fellow student who most inspired their learning and intellectual inquiry over the course of the year. These lists of nominated students were then reviewed by master's program directors who selected the honorees. It's my pleasure to introduce the 13 recipients of the 2018 Intellectual Contribution Award. As I read each student's name, she or he will step forward to receive a certificate and a gold honor cord to be worn tomorrow at commencement. The inscription on the certificate reads, "In recognition of your academic achievement and your contribution to the academic life of HGSE as nominated by your student peers and the HGSE faculty." From the Arts and Education Program, Jocelyn Bonadio de Freitas. Congratulations. From the Education Policy and Management Program, Natasha Rivera. From the Higher Education Program, Dontrell Cotton. From Human Development and Psychology, Benny Webster. From the International Education Policy Program, Rania Brooks. From the Language and Literacy Program, Jabari Sellers. From the Learning and Teaching Program, Morgan Barraza. From the Mind, Brain, and Education Program, Rachel Hantman. From the Prevention, Science, and Practice Program, Esther Kim. From the School Leadership Program, Tamisha Webb. From the Special Studies Program, Shantae Harrington. From the Teacher Education Program, Melissa Moradian. And finally, from the Technology, Innovation, and Education Program, Stuart Jones. It is now my pleasure to present the 2018 Commencement Marshals. Commencement Marshals are elected by their peers for their leadership, their involvement in the HGSE community, and their commitment to service. They are honored as role models and representatives of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. 2 marshals are elected from each of the graduating EDD and EDLD classes. 1 marshal is elected from the CAS program, 1 from the HTF program, and 1 from each of the 13 master's programs. There'll be a quiz on all of these acronyms later, so I hope you're paying attention. As I read each student's name, she or he will step forward to receive the Marshal's Medallion, which will be worn tomorrow at commencement. The first EDD Marshal, Shireen Aladimi. The second EDD Marshal, Stephanie Cuevas. The first EDLD Marshal is Stephanie Downey Toledo. The second EDLD Marshal is Jordy Sparks. The Marshal for the Certificate of Advanced Studies program is Erin McNeil. From the Arts and Education program, Vanessa Chung. From the Education Policy and Management program, James Hankins. This next student I don't think can join us. Janina Umel is from the Harvard Teacher Fellows program, but let's give her a round of applause. From the Higher Education program, Will Torres. From the Human Development and Psychology program, Christina Koutsaratis. From the International Education Policy program, Beatriz Elena Geraldo. From the Language and Literacy program, Sabrina Alicia. I wish there were a little more energy in the crowd. From the Learning and Teaching program, Sarah Baver. From the Mind, Brain, and Education program, Hannah Pereira. From the Prevention, Science, and Practice program, Jordan Harrison. From the School Leadership program, Maisha Rounds. From the Special Studies Program, Eli Center. From the Teacher Education Program, Julia Lawler. And from the Technology, Innovation, and Education Program, Peter Wing. It's now my pleasure to present the Phyllis Strimling Award. This award was created in 2000 to honor Phyllis Strimling, an HGSE alumna from the class of 1989 and the former director of the Radcliffe Seminars program. I'm pleased to welcome Phyllis to today's convocation, as well as Holly Weeks and Rob Saclia, two of the three former Radcliffe Seminar faculty who created the award. I hope you'll join me in thanking Phyllis, Holly, and Rob for their support of our students. The Phyllis Strimling Award recognizes an HGSE student who works to advance society by advancing women, demonstrates inclusive leadership and is inspirational to others, promotes community as a management approach, and demonstrates the ability to employ multiple perspectives in sound decision-making. This year's winner is Amy Ferdina, a master's candidate in the Childhood Advocacy strand of the Human Development and Psychology program. Amy is passionate about women's health and reproductive rights. She's a board member of Planned Parenthood of Mohawk Hudson in upstate New York, where she also previously worked as a patient care advocate. During her time at HGSE, Amy explored the ways in which developmental science can be used to shape better policies for children and their families. After graduation, Amy, who is also a lawyer, okay, let's give it up for that. I'm just kidding. Who is also a lawyer, plans to continue her public policy and advocacy work on behalf of women and children. Please join me in congratulating this year's Phyllis Strimling Award winner, Amy Ferdina. I'd like to now just take a moment to thank this year's HGSE Student Council. The Student Council is elected by the HGSE student body at large and represents every academic program at the school. This year's council did terrific work. They hosted community building and social events for students, created opportunities for students to connect with faculty through the BLT or Breakfast, Lunch, or Tea series, and advocated for students on a variety of issues, including improving IT support and resources. Can I ask that the members of the council stand so we can show our appreciation for your service? I'd also like to thank this year's cohort of Equity and Inclusion Fellows. The Equity and Inclusion Fellows work to advance the mission of the diversity initiatives here at HGSE and the greater Harvard community, with racial equity and justice at the core of their work. This year's 13 fellows have done a terrific job. They've led, among other things, cross-racial dialogues at HGSE, an implicit bias training at the law school, and a diversity training at the medical school. Can I also ask that the fellows stand so we can show our appreciation for your work? I'd now like to introduce our student speaker, Edison Julio. Edison, a Bronx native, is a master's candidate in the Arts and Education program and an Urban Scholars Fellow. Before coming to HGSE, Okay, no applause there. Okay, before coming to HGSE, Edison was a creative writing instructor on Rikers Island. He was also a close mentor of Khalif Browder, who at 16 years old was arrested and then jailed on Rikers Island for 3 years for a crime he did not commit. 2 years after being released, sadly, Khalif took his own life. Edison's relationship with Khalif has inspired him to continue fighting for social justice. While here at HGSE, Edison coordinated a trip for 100 justice-involved students from New York City to visit Harvard. Additionally, he was featured on a Harvard panel on teaching, writing, and incarceration. Please join me in welcoming Edison Julio.
Thank you, Dean Ryan, for such a gracious introduction. Thank you to all the families and friends that have traveled here from both near and far. And thank you especially to all the mothers in the audience. There is no nation without you all. As the Dean mentioned, I've spent the last 10 years of my life working with the incarcerated. And so before I begin this afternoon, I'd like to ask you all to join me in a brief moment of silence for the very bodies that have become the coins and fuel of this country's carceral machine. Thank you. They sat in a half circle that spanned out towards the back of the classroom. Each prisoner garbed in the classic jail two-piece, the stiff khaki pants and the beige top that fountained over some of their thin upper bodies. It was a cold, cold afternoon in the Rikers Island jail facility. Jacob stood at 6'4", and a ruined tattoo of a flaming basketball sat squarely between his collarbones. He was only 18 years old. 18 years old, facing a 17-year prison sentence for a nonviolent drug charge. And yet somehow, Jacob's wide smile, his great poise, uncharacteristic of anyone in that situation, would always distract me from the urgency of his upcoming trial. On his desk, hidden away between the pages of his notebook, so that neither the correctional officer standing watch at the door, nor the correctional officer standing directly behind me would notice, Jacob kept a small, standard AA battery. In between taking notes, he methodically peeled away the battery's cover, leaving its negative and positive charge points exposed. Later on that evening, Jacob used the door in his housing unit to chip off the uppermost piece of that battery, what a scientist over at Harvard College might call the anode. In his cell, Jacob then cut a small strip of aluminum foil from a soup box, a purchase he made at commissary, of course. He held the thin strip against the two ends of the battery. And when the aluminum foil ignited, when it finally caught fire, Jacob swiftly moved the foil near a piece of toilet tissue he positioned just a few inches away. Now, when the toilet tissue sparked, Jacob quickly reached into his crotch area and produced a cigarette. He held the cigarette's tip to the fire, and when it lit, Jacob took a deep, deep, relaxing pull. This, my fellow graduates, is how an 18-year-old in jail got by, is he waited to be sentenced and put away for nearly as many years as he had been alive on this earth. Today we are graduating, and not just from any middle-of-the-road university. Today, friends, we are graduating from Harvard University. At this institution, we have everything anyone could ever need to start a fire. Everything. We have the books, the capacious libraries, the academic instruction. We have the famed visitors and preeminent fellows. And next year, students will have the very first Black woman serving as Dean of Harvard's Graduate School of Education. We have all those things. And most importantly, we also have had each other. So in the end, my fellow graduates, one might dare say we have it all. But you see, there's something we might not have that Jacob had. There's something we might not have that Jacob had. Jacob was desperate. He was desperate. So today I challenge you all with this question. What are you desperate for? What are you desperate for? We talk about equity in education for all, but are we desperate for it? We talk about candor in curriculums, but are we desperate for it? We talk about liberation pedagogy. We talk about freedom, but are we desperate for it? You see, when you have nothing and you find yourself in a position of great necessity, you must find a way to produce exactly what it is that you need. You must. Because where there is great need, without a desperate will, there is often tragedy. But that challenge doesn't end with the students alone. We should be asking the very same question of this university. And so, Harvard, how desperate are you? I cannot pretend to know the answer for this institution, but I am confident that I know the answer for this graduating class. We are desperate. We are desperate for change. We have shared it in the classroom. We have shared it on all floors of the Gutman Library. I even see that desperation today. I think some of y'all are ready to start your full-time jobs tomorrow. And so if you're willing, I ask that you raise your right hand and take this pledge with me. Repeat after me. I will start a fire. Whether you give me everything or you give me nothing. Because I am desperate for change. Class of 2018, go out into the world and let your desperate show. Congratulations.
Thank you, Edison, for that incredibly powerful address. I'm now going to turn over the podium to the Academic Dean and the Juliana W. and William Foss Thompson Professor of Education and Society, Noni Lasso, who will introduce this afternoon's faculty speaker.
Thank you, Jim, and good afternoon. I am just simply delighted to introduce the faculty convocation speaker elected by you, the class of 2018, Professor Karen Mapp. We are very proud to call Karen one of ours. She earned a master's and a doctorate from HGSE with a focus on administration, policy, planning, and social policy. Karen returned to HGSE in 2005 to join the faculty after serving as the Deputy Superintendent for Family and Community Engagement in the Boston Public Schools. In that role, she supported the achievement of countless students by improving the partnerships among families, community members, and educators in the district. During that time, she also joined the Institute for Responsive Education, where she later became president, and developed numerous programs to better familiarize parents with learning standards. Here at HGSE, Karen is the fearless director of the Education Policy and Management Program. And whether through her work with former Secretary of Education Arne Duncan to create a national model for family-school partnerships, or through her work on culturally inclusive practices and mindsets, Karen continues to navigate and influence the field of education with passion, rigor, and determination. It goes without saying that our students and faculty deeply admire Karen. Her courses draw the enrollment of many, and I should say that this, today, is a repeat performance. She was also selected by the class of 2014 to give the faculty convocation address and is therefore back by popular demand. In 2014, Karen delivered a most moving and memorable speech on hopes and dreams, a theme that is core to her scholarship, her character, and her devotion to students, families, and educators. So I'd now like to share some excerpts from this year's graduating class in their messages about Karen. One student wrote, "Professor Mapp is a master of the craft of teaching. Her class demanded that we consistently show up ready to be challenged and to be our most authentic selves." Another student wrote, I often feel as if I learn as much from her teaching and her approach to teaching as I do from the content we cover. And finally, one said, Dr. Mapp shows by her example what it means to be a community member, a critical thinker, a leader, and an excellent role model. In her convocation address in 2014, Karen expressed to the graduating class then, her hope that they do their work not to others, but in solidarity with others. And I think everyone who knows Karen will agree that she herself lives up to that hope. She is a model scholar practitioner who has served valiantly alongside parents, community members, students, and colleagues in the quest for greater equity and learning opportunities for all students. So now, please join me in welcoming my colleague, Karen Mapp.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I guess now I can't give that 2014 speech. Noni already told you everything I was going to say in that one, so I had to come up with something new. So let's see how it goes. So welcome, students, families, and friends, colleagues, to this afternoon's convocation. And I would like to take this moment to express my deepest gratitude to the students for electing me this year's faculty speaker. I am truly honored by this recognition. Now, it was brought to my attention actually by one of our doctoral students, Al Moore, that I was selected to be the convocation speaker in 2014, which was Jim Ryan's first year as dean. And now, here I am again as faculty speaker in his last year as dean. Now, I'm not quite sure what to make of this bookend dynamic, but I do know one thing for sure, that Dean Ryan's leadership has been an inspiration to me and to many of you. And I wish him all the best as he and his family begin their new journey at the University of Virginia. Thank you, Jim. Last month, I attended the annual American Educational Research Conference, AERA for short, and this year it was held in New York City. I went to a superb presidential session entitled Building a New Educational Justice Movement. The session was coordinated by my friend and colleague, Professor Mark Warren, and Mark assembled a wonderful panel of parents, community activists, and scholars of community organizing. One of the panelists was Natasha Capers, one of my sheroes. Natasha is a parent activist with the Coalition for Educational Justice in New York City. Natasha began her presentation by talking about the movie Black Panther. How many of you have seen Black Panther? Okay. For those of you who haven't, what's going on? Okay, it's on Netflix now and all that, so you should be able to pick it up. So for those of you who haven't seen the movie, one of the stars of the movie is actually a place. And it is the fictional African nation of Wakanda, Black Panther's home. Wakanda is a technologically advanced and thriving nation where all young people, regardless of their gender and station and background, are empowered to be their best selves. Natasha told us that while she was watching Black Panther for the second time, she found herself wondering, you know, what do schools in Wakanda look like? Schools that could produce these talented citizens who are technologically sophisticated and culturally astute and aware. Long after her session, I found myself thinking about Natasha's question. I wondered about the schools, the teachers, and the overall culture of educational institutions there. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm at an ed school. This is the perfect place to ask that question. So, with the support of Matt Weber and the filming and editing expertise of Iman Rastagari, thank you, Iman, I went out on Appian Way and asked members of our HGSE community about Wakandan schools. And we created a video for you today of their responses. Now, as you watch the video, I'd like you to not only listen to what people say, but I want you to watch for how they say it. Patrick, my life depends on you. Roll the videotape. I'm out here doing a little woman on the street today.
Awesome.
And I want to ask you a question about, you've seen Black Panther,
Of course
obviously.
I've seen Black Panther.
Of course you think Black Panther. Okay, that's right. I want you to imagine, what do you think schools in Wakanda look like?
Ooh. Oh gosh, I don't know.
God, it's a fascinating question.
Their schools are amazing.
I should first begin with, I just got back from so I have a lot to say.
I think they're very inclusive, definitely. Kids learn by, experience, by playing with that substance that I forgot. The
Vibranium?
Yes.
So I expect that they're super awesome considering how Shuri came out. I mean, she's so great.
Like Shuri's lab, like hands-on, super experimental, new technology.
And they don't have to do any academics until they're a little older.
I would imagine that teachers are venerated in Wakanda, that it's one of the highest positions that you can take.
They're free, they're public, and they have a strong emphasis on STEM.
They look like Morehouse and Spelman.
Good answer.
Schools in Wakanda would be liberatory for students of African or of color.
I think it would be rich in Black history. I think that the students will have an opportunity to really understand their culture.
Black male teachers would be more than 2%.
What do you think the teaching looks like?
Maybe it's more interactive and less kind of hierarchical.
I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't be like much different than like exceptional teachers that we have here.
Kids would, from the time they're in pre-kindergarten, feel like they could do anything. That the whole world was, the whole universe was open to them because all these people around them believe so deeply in them.
What do you think they look like physically?
Physically?
Yeah.
I don't think they'll have walls.
Open space, they're all glass, floor to ceiling.
Like the Opera House in Sydney.
Palaces.
I don't even know that there is a building, right? Like I think they're spending a lot of time out and about in the world.
I think the schools probably have a lot of important outdoor elements. I would imagine that when you think about the beauty of the landscape and the diversity of the landscape in Wakanda, I can imagine the schools, they're leveraging that.
Full of sunshine and brightness and imagination.
Shiny and pretty and tall and robust, but also like very purposeful. So like maybe I can touch something and it just gives me like a can of soda or something. I don't know, like something really cool.
I think it'd be a pretty fun place to go.
Yeah, sounds like a nice place.
I would like to go.
Me too. Okay, thanks.
Wakanda forever. Wakanda forever.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm using this for my convocation speech.
I think that's brilliant.
So thanks everyone who indulged us out there on APN Way. We really appreciate your contributions. So now I'd like you to think for a moment, what struck you about what you just heard, what you just saw in these responses? Now, if we had time, my students know that we engage now in something, Andrew and Ami, right? Turn and talk, right? That's what we would do, but we don't have time for that today. So we'd have a chance when we do that normally in class to share our responses. A new word, family and friends, you might hear on APNA. We'd explore our wonderings, right? It's one of our words. But since we don't have time to do that here, I'm going to share with you what struck me about these responses. They were exuberant, passionate, joyous, spontaneous, wondrous, confident, creative, loving, and unapologetic. And they were filled with what Angela Glover Blackwell, who was here last week, described as radical imagination. That kind of imagination that's glorious, improvisational, courageous, that doesn't take no for an answer, that doesn't let anything stand in its way. This has been a tough year on so many levels for so many of us. But I have to say, I am hopeful, more hopeful than I've been in a while. And that hope comes primarily from this radical imagination, this radical courage, this radical leadership that I've seen in our students. I've watched them push back hard on those individuals, institutions, and organizations that show in their actions and their words that they only support Wakandan-like schools and opportunities for some kids, not for all kids. I've seen our students interrogate their own assumptions, biases, and ways of seeing the world. And I've seen them create space in their minds and in their hearts for new ways of thinking and feeling about themselves and others. I've seen them form collaborations and teams that work together to disrupt the very systems and structures that stand in the way of creating these vibrant and equitable educational opportunities for all children. But our students cannot do that work alone. They need all of us, every person in this room, to be ready to support this work in whatever way you can. So Eddie and I must have been thinking along the same wavelength here, because I'm going to do a little call and response myself right now. I want us in this room to let everyone within an earshot hear just how ready we are to do the work to create Wakandan-like schools and opportunities for all of our children. When I ask you, are you ready? I want you to shout out, yes, we're ready. So here we go. Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
And with that passion and with that spirit, let's go change the world. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2018. Thank you.
I'm giving gifts to both of the speakers, and I just want to say thanks to Karen again for a truly inspiring speech. I think she deserves one more round of applause. So I'd now like to invite the chair of this year's class gift campaign to join me, Isabel Rivers McHugh, who's a master's candidate in our Human Development and Psychology program. Isabel chaired a class gift committee of 24 ed school students. Together, the committee chose to support a critical priority of the ed school, unrestricted financial aid for our incoming class of students. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all who have worked with Isabel and to everyone who has given. Isabel will now tell you a bit more about the class gift campaign.
Dean Ryan, faculty and staff, family and friends, and my fellow members of the class of 2018, it is truly a privilege to stand before you today as the chair of the 2018 Class Gift Committee. As many of you know, the Class Gift is a class-led initiative to raise financial aid dollars for the incoming class. The great success of this year's campaign demonstrates our firm commitment to educational access and that we deeply value the work being done at our great institution. This year, due to the overwhelming generosity of all who have donated, the class of 2018 quickly exceeded our goal of $20,000, and perhaps even more impressively, we achieved the highest level of participation of any class gift campaign in HGSE history, with 82% of graduating master's students donating to the campaign. I want to acknowledge that 9 of our master's cohorts surpassed last year's participation numbers for their respective cohorts. This landmark year would not have been possible without the hard work and commitment from the Class Gift Committee representatives from each of the 13 master's cohorts. Your dedication, ingenuity, and energy were driving forces this year. I'm so grateful to have had an opportunity to work with you all. Additionally, I would especially like to recognize Kim Bridges, Miho Kubagawa, and Elizabeth Michi for their work as co-chairs of the EDLD campaign. Under their strong leadership, the EDLD cohort continued the tradition of 100% participation in the campaign. While many of us may be leaving Cambridge after this week, I would like to remind you that the campaign is not yet over. If you have not given, I would like to encourage you to join your 550 classmates who have already contributed, and by the end of this month, we can add to the need-based funding for the class of 2019. Every dollar given to the class gift signals our lifelong connection and commitment to this institution, and will directly assist future students more fully experience HGSE's transformative learning environment. With that said, I want to conclude by once again thanking each and every contributor who helped us achieve this groundbreaking year. Dean Ryan, to honor your final year at HGSE, we felt it was only appropriate to make this the most memorable class gift that we've ever had. I know I will remember your kind and generous spirit, class of 2018, long after I leave Appian Way. And Dean Ryan, I hope that this final gift from our class serves as a similar reminder for you. Without further ado, it is truly my pleasure to present the check to Dean Ryan in the amount of $24,022.77.
So 2 things to note. First, you can tell why the campaign was so successful given that Isabel still reminded you that there's still time. And the second is, I don't know if anyone else noticed, but that check is made out to me personally, so this ceremony is over. So it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce the chair of our Alumni Council, Abigail Joseph, who will be presenting the 2018 Alumni Award for Outstanding Contribution to Education. Abigail earned her master's degree in 1999, and she brings a wealth of experience in public education and civic engagement to the council. She is currently Chief of Staff to the Chicago Board of Education, which provides oversight of the Chicago Public Schools, the nation's 3rd largest school district. Please join me in welcoming Abigail Joseph.
Thank you, Dean Ryan, and good afternoon. As the chair of the Alumni Council, I have the distinct pleasure to not only serve the school through a 4-year appointment, but to be here with you today to present the Alumni Council Award for Outstanding Contribution to Education. First, to the classes of 2018, congratulations on what we all know is a huge accomplishment. I was sitting where you are back in 1999 in disbelief that this incredible experience had come to an end. As you hold that diploma in your hand tomorrow, that chapter of being a student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education turns into a chapter of becoming an alumnus of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Staying connected to the school, supporting the school's mission, and engaging with alumni from every city imaginable post-Harvard has been a great privilege for me. Looking around, we can all agree that we're a part of a very special community, one that has committed itself to bettering the lives of others And although you are parting ways, there are many ways to stay connected with one another and engaged with the school. Host an alumni event in your city, contribute to the Alumni of Color Conference, or make a 4-year commitment to strengthen the relationship between the university and its alumni as an alumni council member, to name a few. The Alumni Council is a meaningful way to serve this school that has given us so much, and as a group of volunteers, we provide a valuable connection between the school and its growing body of alumni. I'm most proud that for the first time, the Alumni Council developed a statement on inclusivity, embracing the school's commitment that its graduates be prepared to proactively address issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion as they navigate and participate in a global community, which is a perfect segue into honoring an alumnus of ours who has devoted his life to these very same issues. It was clear to us when we selected this distinguished individual, here's a person who lives his values, values of justice, equity, and service through a deep belief that education can be the anchor to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty. He embodies the spirit of this award as an alum, working tirelessly at our school's vision to change the world. I am so honored to present the 2018 Alumni Council Award for Outstanding Contribution to Education to the extraordinarily talented Dr. Douglas Wood for his far-reaching contributions in the field of education and his relentless commitment to bringing opportunities to the underserved. Dr. Wood, would you please stand to be recognized while I read the award citation? Dr. Douglas E. Wood is a visionary leader, innovator, and educator activist dedicated to giving voice to the most underrepresented student populations in the United States and around the world. From his time teaching middle school history in South Carolina to managing an impressive portfolio of more than 120 programs for marginalized people worldwide at the Ford Foundation, Dr. Wood has been guided by a conviction that education is a key lever of social change. He has brought about systemic changes in a variety of educational settings. As Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Tennessee State Board of Education, he helped to secure the largest competitive education grant in the state's history, which created a reading infrastructure for students in low-income communities. Dr. Wood has made a remarkable impact on the Higher Education for Social Justice initiative at the Ford Foundation, with a particular focus on scaling the availability of high-quality post-secondary opportunities for incarcerated individuals. For these and other profound contributions to the field of education, it is with great respect that we bestow the 2018 Harvard Graduate School of Education Alumni Council Award upon Dr. Douglas E. Wood, EDM 1996, EDD 2000.
Thank you, Abigail, and thank you and congratulations, Dr. Wood, for your commitment to social justice and equity as a teacher, researcher, policymaker, and leader in education. I'd like to give you another round of applause. Okay, how is everyone doing? All right, okay. This is our final speaker, and it's worth the wait. It's my pleasure to introduce John Sylvanus Wilson, Jr. As I mentioned earlier, he is a senior advisor and strategist to the president of Harvard University and the former president of Morehouse College. He is a dedicated alum of both Harvard and Morehouse. He is, as they say, a Morehouse man, completing his undergraduate degree at the nation's only historically black liberal arts college for men. He went on to complete his graduate degrees at Harvard, earning a master's degree from the Divinity School, as well as a master's and a doctoral degree from HGSE. John has devoted his entire career to improving higher education. He has served in senior leadership roles at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, George Washington University, and here at Harvard. He is a champion for expanding educational opportunities for all, but especially for those who have been historically marginalized. From 2009 to 2013, Dr. Wilson served at the invitation of President Barack Obama as the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities, or HBCUs as they're sometimes called. John and his team were charged with helping HBCUs continue to be a critical driver in meeting the goal set by President Obama to be the nation with the greatest proportion of college graduates by 2020. To meet President Obama's goal, Dr. Wilson and his team helped strengthen the capacity of HBCUs to participate in federal programs, boosting Pell Grant funding for HBCU students by $300 million and leading to a grand total investment of $4 billion between 2007 and 2014. In 2013, John returned to his beloved alma mater, Morehouse College, to become its 11th president. During his tenure, he advanced opportunities for students to participate in STEM initiatives, and he continued to passionately advocate for equity. Following the tragic deaths of Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, and Tamir Rice, John wrote in a public piece, "Equal protection and a presumption of innocence are owed to all citizens regardless of their race, creed, or station in life. They are owed to all citizens whether they are college dropouts or college presidents." At Harvard, Dr. Wilson is playing a critical role in implementing the recommendations from the Presidential Task Force for Inclusion and Belonging. In announcing his appointment, President Drew Faust noted correctly that John is distinctively able to ensure that Harvard's efforts to create a truly inclusive environment for all of its members will bear full fruit. John is a trusted advisor, and for many here in the audience, myself included, a generous teacher, colleague, and friend. This year, he returned to the Ed School to serve as president in residence in the higher education program. Mary Grasso O'Neill, an HGSE faculty member who has worked with him, describes him, again correctly, as exceptional and accessible, and he's immersed himself in the life of HGSE. Please join me in welcoming an extraordinary alum and community member, Dr. John Sylvanus Wilson, Jr.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Dean Ryan, and thank you for making HGSE stronger and better. One can have no sweeter legacy than that. I'd like to thank all of the speakers today, and I'd like to say congratulations to alumnus Doug Wood. Thank you for all of your good work. And I would also like to welcome Dean Bridget Terry Long. She will be our dean when the Ed School turns 100 in the year 2020. That is the year of perfect vision. And with perfect eyesight, she will assess the last century, and with perfect vision, she will plan the next century. And now, congratulations to the HGSE graduating class of 2018. Let's give them a hand. You know, I sat in a gathering like this back in 1985. I got married 2 weeks later to Carol S.B. Wilson right here in the front row, electrical engineering at MIT, PhD. And then I traveled up the street to launch my career with a 16-year stay at MIT. My wife and I also lived on campus as what they called then housemasters. And being around students so much, we often found reason to selectively share a truism with students. And that truism was this: That truism is this: perspective is worth 100 points of IQ. Perspective is worth 100 points of IQ. No matter how paralyzed or confounded you may feel by your academic or social dilemma, if you find a way to just adjust your perspective, you can actually elevate or surge in a unique brilliance and creativity. You can convert your perceived shackles into wings. You can convert your bondage into freedom. Freedom. Berkeley cognitive scientist George Lakoff calls freedom the central idea in American life, the most important idea in American history, and of late, the most contested word in American political discourse. Lakoff thinks we don't know what freedom is anymore. And I think he's right. But since I feel he understates the case, I want to use this time to highlight 3 perspectives on the quest for freedom. And I'd like the graduating class to see this as a memo to you as you set out to heal the world, working beside 32,000 other HGSE alums who are out there already doing the same. I should also add that I have assumed this new role as senior advisor to the president of Harvard in the firm belief that Harvard cannot be Harvard until we get freedom right. That is, until we ensure that everyone in this community has the freedom to flourish in the way that they should. So 3 perspectives on freedom. And I realize as I go through these perspectives that I stand in the way of you and a block party. Oh my. So I'm going to set you free in a minute. First perspective on freedom. The freedom quest swirls like the spirit or mandate of this moment. I want everybody in the graduating class to feel lucky to enter the world at such a powerful moment in time. To the extent that the universe signals to us what time it is, it has been signaling and whispering and shouting to you all year, to all of us. And it has caused Americans to march. Teachers are marching in West Virginia and in Oklahoma and in Kentucky. Teachers are marching in Colorado and Arizona and elsewhere, holding strikes and walkouts for better pay and better classrooms. They all want to have the freedom to teach without being undermined by basic deficiencies. Students are marching. The Parkland students have already galvanized the nation, and now the Santa Fe, Texas students will join the front of the same march. We're at a point where our students are just looking to be free from violence and the threat of violence. Looking to be free to feel safe and learn at the same time. Women are marching. They're marching for their optimal empowerment and to finally and completely upend the toxic culture that has existed for far too long. They want freedom from the tyranny. I thought there were some women in here. I was going to say, where did all the energy go? That women, they want freedom from the tyranny of silence and the crime of zero accountability around sexual violence and sexual harassment and misogyny. Black folk are still marching too. Of late, just to insist that Black lives matter. It's that simple. It's getting kind of basic. This October, thousands of impatient and angry people will march in D.C. because they feel that 2.5 million addicted and 218 million people dying every day is enough. So they want the freedom from Big Pharma. They want to be free from Big Pharma making billions by infesting the nation with opioids. That's what the march in October is going to be about. I want you to know that this is a freedom moment. And I think everybody in this class, everybody in under this tent should realize that and should embrace the freedom energy as you move into the world. And more than embrace it, I encourage you to find a way to inform it and be informed by it, to inspire it and be inspired by it, to elevate it and be elevated by it. You emerge from HGSE as millions of Americans strive for a new kind of freedom. And I might add that you also emerge from this place poetically bookended by freedom messaging, because 50 years ago, freedom fighter Coretta Scott King spoke in Harvard's commencement season and told graduates to hold high the banner of freedom. That's what she said 50 years ago. And tomorrow, our iconic freedom fighter, Georgia Congressman John Lewis, will be the main afternoon speaker. And you can trust, he is a friend of mine, you can trust that he will message in some way about freedom as well. Don't miss the sign of these times. This is a freedom moment, and you have to live in it and be in it and cause it. Second perspective, the quest for freedom gestates in our educational work and leadership, and it is struggling to be born. Too few of our leaders know that if you are in the education business, you are de facto in the freedom business. They're one and the same thing. I know that roughly a third of the class will now assume leadership roles, so I want to share with you the best leadership advice I have ever received. It came from one of our HBCU leaders who was effectively elevating her institution. And she visited me in my White House HBCU office, and I asked her, "What's your secret?" She said, "There are only two ways to transform an organization. You either have to change the people or you have to change the people." Now, like you, I had heard that before, and I knew that she meant either you make a change in the people that you have, or you make a change by switching from those people to new people. Change the people or change the people. As we discussed this, and I argued that you should be careful to give people every chance and opportunity to grow, she warned, the longer you take to assess which change is best, the more likely it is that you will fail miserably. We debated that, and she gave up, or so I thought. Within a week, she sent me a book in the mail, the title of which summarizes the most important leadership lesson that I have ever received. The book is entitled, "You Can't Send a Duck to Eagle School." I want you to think about that. You cannot send a duck to Eagle School. Translation: some folk are so allergic to change, there is no curriculum, no counseling, no professional development that can convert them into being reliable forces for good in your institution. Hence, you can't send a duck. Let me say it another way. Duck in, duck out. Okay? I hear some snapping over here. Now, why is this critical? It's critical because as leaders, you will need the right people to use educational strategies to tap the genius in your classroom and in your school and in your community. And once you have the right people and the right strategies, you have to establish the right culture. So leaders and educators, it's really all about culture. You got to be focused on culture when you leave here. MIT's Ed Schein said it best. He said the only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. Peter Drucker agreed. He said, it's because culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Whatever new strategies you graduates have, whatever new theories and interventions have excited you here, if you are not first focused on the culture of whatever organization you're going to, if you don't focus on that first, then you are going to fail miserably. That sounds a little harsh. Let me put it another way. You will fall flat on your face. You might as well say when you offer your ideas, would you like these ideas scrambled or poached? Because it's going to be breakfast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's what happens in organizations. The most important, now what kind of culture should you be looking to create? You should create a culture of freedom. Of freedom. So we're back to freedom. The most important idea I was exposed to here at HGSE back in 1984, back in the day, was generated by a Brazilian educator philosopher named Paulo Freire. How many people in here know Paulo Freire? He was brilliant. I just studied liberation theology at the Divinity School, so a logical step at the Ed School was to study liberation pedagogy, or as Freire called it, pedagogy of the oppressed. Freire could have been observing today's world when he said, we need to reset relationships between teacher and student and society. And you know what? When Freire defined education in the context of transformation, he called it the practice of freedom. That's what he called it, the practice of freedom. Freire said schools either have a culture of conformity to the status quo or a culture of transformation and freedom. Graduates, we need you to lead the way in creating more cultures of freedom in this country and in this world. Do that because those are the kind of environments, and they may be the only kind of environments, where people, young and old, can best discover who they are and why they're here. And the people who know who they are and why they're here, they are the freest people in the world. That very truth caused Ralph Ellison to declare, when I discover who I am, then I'll be free. That's Ralph Ellison. And that brings me to the final perspective on the quest for freedom. The quest for freedom swirls in this moment. It is in the womb of all of our educational work and leadership. And finally, I want you to see that the quest for freedom innately dwells in every human soul, and perhaps at the soul of life itself. I want you all to know that I have lived at the intersection of education and religion my entire life. I was raised by a teacher, mom, and a preacher, dad. That's at the intersection of education and religion, if nothing ever was. It was not always fun. They had me figured out all the time, too. As they saw it, if what was wrong with me wasn't logical, then it had to be theological. I think that's why I attended the Ed School and the Divinity School here. It seems I'm still trying to find out whether every human dilemma really boils down to a matter of stupidity or sin, which is the way they framed it. Ignorance or corruption. You know, we used to think our parents were so Old Testament, you know, so nuance-free. But now I look around the world and remember they said it's either ignorance or sin. I look about what's going on now. My parents were prophetic. They were prophetic. Oh my God. It's both. It's both about right now. I want to make this last point from that intersection of education and religion. While I was back at MIT in the 80s and 90s, I worked with troubled black boys over in Roxbury. The stolen potential stuck with me, as did my frustration in trying to heal it, trying to recover it. So later, while presiding at Morehouse, we ordered up some pipeline data that clarified the challenge in crystal clear terms. Every year, about 360,000 black boys start 9th grade. And every year, only about 180,000 graduate on time from 12th grade. You probably know that stat, but what you may not know is that only 3% of those 9th graders, 3%, get the kind of grades and scores that will get them in competitive places. 3%. I heard that, I was like, damn, 3%. By the way, damn is in the Bible 15 times. I said that once to my dad, and he sent me to my room with a slap upside the head, whereupon I said, damn, 15 times. But 3%. You see, those data and those experiences in Roxbury led us to the conclusion that we need some unconventional ways to reach our most neglected kids. So here's what I want to lay on your heart and on your heart as I leave. We decided to awaken in them the impulse to be authors of your own freedom. To prove that concept, we began trying this at Morehouse to help ignite the freedom fire and desperation in our students. We leaned on Mark Twain. Mark Twain said this: the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. The day you're born and the day you find out why. And we urged our students to remain open to having your second day. We urged them. We told them that that is the day that you find out why you were born. That is the day that you realize your calling in life. That is the day you are awakened to the purpose you were born knowing. This second day power is inside of you. Hence, education, from Latin, educare, to bring out or to bring forth. And this second day concept is universal too. Buddhists and Hindus call it enlightenment or awakening. Carl Jung and Jungian psychologists call it individuation. James Baldwin said it was the day my dungeon shook and my chains fell off. My grandfather would say, boy, in church, we call that Damascus. My father would say, your second day ain't nothing but your second birth. They both were preachers, by the way. My mother and grandmother would explain it as the reason why the old folks sang, I'm so glad I got my religion in time. When you get your religion, you have your second day. David Brooks wrote about it in the New York Times and referred to it as your agency moment. And Rick Warren made millions with a book about it called The Purpose-Driven Life. And mystic theologian Howard Thurman said it can happen inside of every human being once you hear the sound of the genuine. And by the way, Carol Dweck's growth mindset is pretty much evident on your second day, and Angela Duckworth's grit becomes obvious later that afternoon. Whatever you call it, it is the day when the truth of your life finally connects with the truth of all life. And when that happens, you're as free as you possibly can be. This is so rare. And I want to give you all a sense of desperation about being free. If you've never thought about it before, if you're sitting here thinking whether or not you've had your second day, you think about whether or not you are free. Demographers tell us that in the history of this planet, 108 billion humans have ever been born. That is how many people have had their first day. But of the 7.6 billion people on this earth right now, so few of them have had their second day. So few of us experience the freedom of discovering who we are and why we're here. That can and must change, and educators can and must change it. And we know how to do it. It's all personal. The reason why Martin Luther King attended Morehouse College reading at an 8th grade level at first and was ready for a PhD program by the time he left is because Morehouse College was, at that point, a second-day institution. It was hands-on, it was nurturing, it was in your face in what we were doing, and that produced King and can produce other second-day people in this world. Can we do it? Yes, we can do it. HGSE graduates reach 15 million students every year in America. 15 million. As Toni Morrison said, your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. And that is the truth. And so I close. This convocation message has come to you from the intersection of education and religion. I'm guessing that some of you have heard it as a speech and some of you have heard it as a sermon. And for that, I offer no apology. That is who I am, and that is why I'm here. But as I close, let me hang out at that intersection just a little longer and close with two quick points, one logical and one theological, both about this great institution. You know, logically, the ed school in me, the ed school training in me led me to review Harvard's history to discover that in 1643, the 7th year of life for this remarkable institution, the overseers met and decreed that we shall have a college seal, and upon it shall be one word, Latin, veritas, meaning truth. But theologically, the divinity school in me offers this reminder that those Puritans thought that it wasn't merely truth, it was divine truth. So given that, I'm here to feel free to give a second-day reminder about the truth of your life and the truth of all life. Very simply, I suspect that the reason why those original Harvard Puritans decided to centralize veritas is because somewhere in a book held dear, it says, once you know the truth shall set you free. Free. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless HGSE. It's hot in here. Thank you.
Thank you, John, again for that remarkable address. So just a few brief words of thanks and some announcements before I will officially set you free to go to the block party. First, I want to thank the Office of Student Affairs for coordinating all of our commencement activities, and in particular, Alex Galindo, Kevin Bohm, Tracy Jones, Eileen Berger, and Liz Thurston, the Director of Student Affairs. To all of our students, tomorrow will be an early start. Be sure to be ready on Appian Way promptly at 7:30 a.m. For the university commencement exercises. I've also been asked to remind you to bring your Harvard IDs, which you'll need with you during the day. In the yard, I will have the honor to present you to President Faust, and I encourage you to make a lot of noise. I think you can do better than that. Let's practice one. Okay. All right, that's a good warm-up. Finally, as I mentioned, I'd like to invite all of our graduating students, their friends and family to a block party on Appian Way that will start as soon as I will stop talking. And for that reason, I am going to stop talking and I will see you out at the block party. Thanks very much.